What's going on, everybody? This is Architect 7, and I'm here with Diva Views for our Sunday special report. How you doing, Diva?
Good. I'm good, John. Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday Night Special Report. This is a companion show to our Friday Night Live show where you can catch us, Hiphopcitizen Live, every Friday night. We want you to like, share, call in, and have a discussion with us. This is a show where we're going to talk about hip hop adjacent issues that are affecting the citizens and the culture, but we want to go more in depth. So we're just going to jump right into these topics. We want to welcome everybody, whether you're listening to us after. Thank you for rocking with us on this. I think the link is in the description box, right, Architect? We got a way for you to call in and be a part of the discussion.
Correct. Feel free to chime in at any time. What we
All
got?
right, so we're going to jump right into the topics. The first thing we want to start with is updates on the case of Breonna Taylor and, of course, Ahmaud Arbery's cases. Now, Architect, Breonna Taylor's case has not been lost in everything that's been going on with the catalyst of George Floyd and the movement that he has jump-started. Breonna Taylor's case basically is still being investigated. It's kind of sad that it's still in that stage. I believe the officers involved in the no-knock raid were put on a paid administrative leave, per usual. The family has already filed their wrongful death lawsuit, and I believe Ben Crump, who is basically the face of the cases of extrajudicial killings like this, he is representing the family at this time. They are suing the department and the officers.
Now, the way that I understand that is they assumed that a drug dealer lived in that home.
Correct.
Was there any relation between anybody in that apartment and this supposed drug dealer? I know the boyfriend was cleared for shooting at the cops.
Right.
They pretty much dropped everything. So did they? Is there any updates on that aspect of it?
Right. The information that came out afterwards was that it was basically a wrong address. The no-knock warrant that was signed by the judge had the incorrect information on it to begin with. And when they went to that address, it turned out that the person they were looking for was already in custody, on top of the fact that the person hadn't lived at that address for several months. So they not only went to the wrong address looking for that person, but there was no communication to let that task force know that the person they were looking for was already in custody. So they did the
Wow.
no-knock warrant.
So I
There
don't
is
understand
definitely
what there is to investigate, but okay.
exactly. It's been, I believe, 2 months, 2.5 months since the incident occurred, and there has still been no progress. So that's why people are still calling in to the AG of Kentucky. I saw a phone number on Tracy Ellis's Instagram, and I called it and I left a message. And that's what people are actionably doing to try to help this case. Breonna Taylor would have been 27 this past week. And on her birthday, a lot of the Black women of Instagram and people on Facebook made those suggestions of what you can do to keep her name in the discussion, along with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery. Speaking of Ahmaud's case, his preliminary hearing took place this past weekend or this past week for the killers and the man who filmed it. At the preliminary hearing, you can find it on YouTube. You would just have to look up Ahmaud Arbery preliminary hearing. It is 3 hours long. They usually are. I just kind of fast forwarded through it, saw who was there. There were a couple of people on video. There were cameras allowed in the courtroom. And funny enough, one of the defense lawyers actually had the nerve to say that his client had requested not to be filmed, and he was granted that request.
So what was the gentleman that did the filming? What was he charged with?
He has been charged, not an accessory after the fact, but he has been I have to look it up specifically. He's been charged as well. Travis McMichael and Gregory McMichael are the ones that were in the preliminary hearing with the defense lawyers. And it was interesting to watch. The lead investigator was on the stand when I watched, and the defense attorney is basically trying to make this seem like a feared for their lives situation. He also he tried to bring in the fact that Ahmaud Arbery had mental illness. He tried to bring in the fact that the neighborhood was on high alert because of recent break-ins and burglaries, but I have to give it to the lead investigator. He looked at that man like he had no sense that God gave a ferret, because he said, no, we only had one call into the 911 service about a burglary, and that wasn't even followed up because the person
Right.
didn't follow up with us. Basically, the neighbors in that area were together on an app called Nextdoor. And Nextdoor is basically just like a chat room for the people who live in your area to keep track of things like trash pickup, if they want, if there's a lost dog or something like that. But what it's
Right.
turned
A little
into,
HOA type of deal.
exactly. But what it's turned into for a lot of these special people is a way to be busybodies, basically, and a way to like track people who don't belong in the neighborhood. And that's what
Right.
they were doing basically with Ahmaud Arbery. When Ahmaud would go jogging, he would stop at that person's house because it had plumbing, and he would take a drink, or he just was curious and wanted to look at the house. Other people had done it too. They have surveillance video of other people just kind of wandering around the building while construction was in progress. But for some reason, they focused on Ahmaud. And that's when we have the tape of his chase down, basically, and his murder. The preliminary hearing ended with, basically the judge, who was an older white gentleman, allowing some objections to bringing in the evidence of any kind of mental illness. The defense was told to stop leading the investigator on. Questions were asked and answered. Basically, the defense is windmilling and sticking and jabbing. Like, he's trying his darndest, and it's cute.
Now,
That's how I see it.
from what I'm understanding, though, the owners of the home, basically, I mean, they basically said they weren't looking for anybody to play protector over their property to begin with, if I
Right.
recall correctly.
You are correct. Larry King, who owned that house that was under construction, made it very clear from the beginning in news interviews and to the investigators that he hadn't asked anybody to watch the house, quote unquote.
Right.
It was
Right.
something that the neighbors took upon themselves because it was in their neighborhood. He had already had security in place. He already had surveillance video. He was already checking on the property. So he said he was fine. It was these people that took it upon themselves on the Nextdoor app. And these three men took it upon themselves to think that they were chasing down the suspect, helping the police, and they were going to invoke a citizen's arrest once they found who they thought was breaking into the homes.
Yeah, I think, in my honest opinion, that case right there, the shit's gonna hit the fan. Just based on what I was reading on Georgia law and how a lot of that stuff plays out. Uh, it's going to be interesting to see how that case ends up. Just again, based on how Georgia law is written,
Right.
in terms of citizens' arrest, in terms of them having the right to, having the right to carry firearms, because you're already
They,
hearing people say basically that he was on the attack and that's why he got shot. Based on the way that the laws are written,
oh
that's
yeah,
how they're going to try to, they're going to try to paint it. So
absolutely. You're right in that they are trying to invoke they're already trying to invoke a self-defense. In the preliminary
right,
hearing, the defense lawyer for Travis Michael was bringing up the fact that Ahmaud Arbery was striking him, and
well,
during the
yeah. I mean, you
struggle.
surrounded him, with trucks and
Hmm.
guns. He's either gonna run and get shot in the back. You're gonna put up a fight. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm putting the fight up. I'm not gonna turn my back on the
Right.
gun.
It was funny to me, honestly, because this defense lawyer, I was like, are you really making their case for them? Because not only did you bring up mental illness, I'm like, oh, thanks, you just told us that your client shot a mentally ill person. Thanks for that. But
Right,
that's how my mind works if I was the prosecution. And then for him to try to mount a self-defense theory, he was saying to the lead investigator, well, don't you believe that he wanted him to speculate a lot? And he was saying,
right.
well, it's my understanding from my client that Ahmaud Arbery was striking him, and during the struggle, a shot was fired, and he kept hitting him. And I'm like, that was adrenaline. He
Yeah,
he was like striking out, trying to stop what was happening to him, and you're making it sound like a fear for my life situation.
right. Well,
I,
they weren't
it
fearing for their life when they chased them down. That's for damn sure.
Right. They mounted up like a posse and rode out to chase him down in the street. So I don't know how far that's going to go as far as the evidence they're letting in. This was just the preliminary hearing. Like I said, I encourage people to look it up on YouTube and stay on top of the case because it's going to come down to the details, and it's going to come down to how the prosecutor and the investigators involved in the case handle it. Same thing with Breonna Taylor. We're really trying to keep the pressure on the state AG and the Louisville Police Department to
I don't even,
to have
that
charges brought.
that be on a Taylor case. I don't know what the hell they're investigating. It is what it is. You
Yeah,
did a no-knock warrant on the wrong house. You killed a woman in her bed. You tried to charge the boyfriend with attempted murder of a police officer. There's really nothing to investigate at that point. Now
yeah. So
the Amari case is going to be tough. That's a big concern right now in the way that I'm seeing. But
yeah, it was interesting to see the preliminary hearing. I just happened to find it in my feed, and like I said, I encourage people to go watch it. If you can't handle sitting for the 3 hours, I don't know the timestamps, but if you just skim through it, you'll see where the prosecutor is standing and watching. You'll see the lead investigator in the witness box, and that's where everything is really interesting in how the defense, you can hear the defense's theory and how they're just like scrambling to try to put something together to get these guys off. And as usual, architect, the X factor is the jury. We
right,
just don't know.
right,
Let's move into our next topic. We definitely want to talk about the other things that have come out of the protests and the movement, the uprising, what everybody is calling it right now. And that is, in hip hop, who are the elder statesmen that we should be looking to, and what should their role be? Now, there are people who are saying, why should we care what entertainers say? Why should we care about their opinion? Well, they're citizens too. They live in
right.
this country too, and they have every right to express it. And because of their platform, architect, I feel like they'd be damned if they did, damned if they don't. Because if they don't say something, everybody's like, well, why aren't you saying something? And then the minute they say something, it's not good enough, or it was the wrong thing to say.
Well, I think that's what we saw with the LL Cool J freestyle. People started questioning the approach he took and speaking out against it, saying that he should have spoken as opposed to come with lyrics.
Which is
And
just dumb.
yeah, I don't think there's any
I don't get
validity
that.
to that complaint, but okay, whatever.
I know we were talking on Friday about whether or not it was spoken word or rap. I didn't think about it then, but I'm gonna come down on the side of spoken word, because I used to do spoken word a lot, and that's what that was. You could put a beat to it later, but it was more
Yeah.
like spoken word, but it was gorgeous. It really was, and
No, I think
LL
he came
still
through.
has it.
I mean, who else?
He has it lyrically. He still does.
I mean, also, not many people are talking about what Kanye West stepped up and did. I know, to a lot of people, he's the crazy guy, but it
Hmm.
looks like he stepped up in a big way.
Yeah, we didn't get to go over it on Friday, but because of time, but we can dive into that now. So Kanye West, who is a native of Chicago, came out and not only marched in one of the protests, he was there kind of trying to be incognito. He also donated $2 million to the college fund of George Floyd's daughter. And I believe he also made other donations, architect, to the causes involved with the movement for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and other extrajudicial killings.
Right. Now, see, call him what you want, but he stepped into action immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm ambivalent, I'll be honest, because Kanye, since the day he got wrapped up with the Kardashians, I have longed for the days of College Dropout, when he was a backpack kid, when he ran with Common. I have longed for those days. And the minute he put a MAGA hat on, I was like, done.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I was so quick to omit him from the status of what he holds. Like, I mean, you guys know how I roll. I don't believe that a point
Yeah.
of view kind of changes an overall person. We're in a day and age now where if you support one thing, now you're static to all of it, So I don't buy into that, and I
Yeah.
never will. So.
And I mean, that's fine. I want you to go into that perspective, actually, because I think that's the other discussion that's taking place with the donations that Kanye's made, and with him showing up at the marches and the protests as well. First of all, he's the only one out of that whole clan that has actually stepped up and done something physical. The rest of them are, doing the hashtagvism,
Well, I know
putting up
that
the black squares and
Jay-Z bought some some headlines or something like that for a crap ton of newspapers all over the country, kind of.
Right. He took out full page ads in the New York Times and other national newspapers to discuss the George Floyd case. He took out a full page ad. So that's a big deal. That's like 30 seconds of the Super Bowl kind of thing.
Right. But then again, we could fall into that. It's just not good enough. Um, you know.
Exactly. Because when Beyonce spoke, that's exactly the discussion that took place. Well, now she want to say something. Now she want to be black. I mean, they were still saying. I'm like, did you not see her Super Bowl performance?
And
Do you not know she moves in silence?
let us not forget, Kanye did call George W. Bush out. He did to say it
And see, that was the
live.
old Kanye.
But you are the
I
sum
don't
of all
know. Yeah,
you are the sum of all your actions.
yeah, it's just tough because, like, yeah, he called George Bush out back in the day. I can still see the deer in the headlights look on Mike Myers' face. But he did that. It was the college dropout days, late registration, all that good stuff when everybody was just getting on to him. And then there was a turn though. At some point there was a turn and everybody's just like, what are you doing? Like, what is wrong with you? Where's the old Kanye? Go find him. And now it's almost like he's trying to come back and make amends. And that's why everybody's kind of like giving him the side eye because okay, you was like 10 toes down on standing with somebody we can't stand, and now here you come in a black hoodie at the protest. Like,
But does that make him any less black?
no, it doesn't
Does
make
his
it any less
experience
black.
and so that's what I feel. I feel like these guys get attacked. Maybe they again. I don't feel like humans are static. We vary in different ways depending on what's brought to us. But I would venture to say that he can relate to the plight of African Americans and being harassed and what have you. So
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
so
I mean, he's the one that came up with the line, if you black in a Benz, you still a nigga in a coupe. Like,
that's it.
and I say
So
that to people. I still say that to people on
we're
the
not
regular.
gonna
Like, it
agree.
doesn't matter.
We're just not gonna agree on everything. That's the way life is.
Yeah, and I mean, he's another one who is coming out, like I said, physically to the protests to show his support. He's put his money where his mouth is, literally. And he could be considered one of the other elder statesmen in hip hop whose
At this point,
opinion could be respected, and maybe you should listen to what he has to say. Now, another person who has come out is Killer Mike. A lot of people respected him because he had a Netflix show called Trigger Warning, which I haven't gotten around to watching, but something interesting happened this weekend that's now going around social media. So Killer Mike was one of the ones in Atlanta when Atlanta started burning for the second time since the Civil War, and he was upset and crying and saying we shouldn't be doing this in our city. When things were happening in Minneapolis, he had nothing to say. He was supportive, all that. As soon as it was his stuff in his city, he had something to say. So somebody
I think
posted on
that's like with
social media,
everything, right? When it hits close to
right?
home, now you feel away. I
When it
mean,
affects you, now you
cancer.
got.
We can talk about anything in that regard.
What's funny is that what's going around social media now is that people were saying, well, wait a minute. Because Killer Mike has stepped into the spotlight, I went back to watch his show, Trigger Warning. How about there's a clip now circulating of him saying on his show, if black people can't get what they want and they're not being heard, burn everything to the ground.
But to be honest with you, Killer Mike has been one of the ones that I've kind of respected his point of view. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we we tend to get very revolutionary with attitude and in our talk, but in our
Mm-hmm.
actions, we're not doing the things necessary to be ready for anything of that nature.
Right.
Whether it be uh, practicing your 2A rights, growing your own food, being self-sustainable, and he's been a big proponent on that on a lot
Right.
of occasions, and I've seen a lot of speaking events. So I get his standpoint, and I get what you're saying as far as was it a little too late, or was it because it was getting ready to mess with his bottom line?
Right. Because when the protests and liter I guess I hate using the word, but when the riots were happening in Atlanta and there was looting and burning, they did what he said to. Don't go and tear down your own neighborhood. Go to the rich people's neighborhood. So they did. They hit Buckhead, they hit Lenox Mall, they went to the Ice Box. That was when him and T.I. came out the woodwork and started saying stop burning down the city. But
Right.
they did what you said to. They went to the places that would hit people in the pocket, but it hit them in the pocket too. And that's the underlying theory that's going on. It's like Y'all weren't worried about it when it was just Minneapolis, but now it was y'all and the real estate interests you have on that side of the city. Now all of a sudden you got something to say, even after you filmed a show saying burn it all to the ground. So
Right.
pick one. People are saying
Right.
on social media right now. Is he another one that people should be looking to listen to? Is he somebody else whose opinion should be valued? Another person coming out the woodwork, Eminem and his statements versus Lil Wayne and his statements. Are you familiar with that,
Yeah.
architect?
Yeah. Yeah. Little Wayne's statements about it being black people's fault for this. I'm not sure I'm in agreement with that. However, I do feel like some of his stuff was taken as a soundbite and thrown out there because some of the areas that he mentioned were pretty solid. But I don't think that you can place any blame. Um,
Yeah, blame's a strong word.
yeah,
Versus Eminem's statements. Eminem was like 10 toes down. Again, he came out and was just like, we're doing Blackout Tuesday. We're doing, Shady Records is going to donate this. He's already put out, his statement about how he feels about the Trump administration a couple of years ago. And his statements were immediately supportive. Whereas within our own community, within the Black community, we're getting statements of, well, but what about all those statements are starting to come out? And when Lil Wayne said that, it felt like a slap in the face to a lot of people.
right. But then one could say that Eminem's doing that to make sure he don't ruin his brand. Being the
Yep.
um, quote unquote guest in the house of hip hop, according to Lord Jamar. Maybe
Mm,
he's saving his bottom line by doing that.
true, there is a lot of pandering going on. There is a lot of, white shucking and jiving at
Not
this
that I believe
point.
that. I wouldn't say that I believe that. I'm just
Right.
saying, playing devil's advocate, one could say that's his way of defending his bottom line. Because if he's quiet,
Hmm.
you know, during this time, what does it look
Would
like
anybody care
overall?
if Eminem was quiet?
I don't know. I mean,
Because we're having candid discussion. He's white. Would anybody care if he said anything?
Lord Jamal might.
Like, the last person I want to discuss about the elder statesman of hip hop right now is definitely somebody I've listened to for years and respected is KRS-One. And KRS-One before George Floyd, before even Sean Bell was telling us how it was with the government, whether or not we were valued and whether or not they cared. And we knew that they didn't, but he was one of the ones that was using hip hop to get that message across and talk about what was going on.
Listen, this is why I say what I say, and I think this is why I've always loved hip hop. KRS-One has always been ahead of the curve on this. Always. If
Hmm.
you go back to the very first albums and any album that he put out, he was always ahead of the curve on this. Um, he's always spoke out about this, and so I think for me, I get frustrated because I'm like, why are we surprised? It, we
Yeah,
act like this is new. This is
this
happening
is not
over,
new.
right? And
This is not
and
new.
again, KRS-One, if you listen to everything that he's ever put out, they call him the teacher for a reason.
Right. The reason I'm bringing it up now is because there was a Billboard article that he had that was 2003, but it is still so relevant. It really
Yeah.
is something that I thought was from recently until I looked at the date and I was like, oh my goodness, this was 17 years ago.
Yes.
Blows my mind. And it reads like it was last week, where he talks
I,
about the current state of hip hop, where he
I
talks
mean, you
about,
think about it. Sound of the police.
oh
Sound of
my
the
goodness.
police.
I played
That's
that the other day and I was like, he could release this now and
exactly.
have it
And
number one streaming.
I've been ridiculed so much for saying that he's probably one of my all-time favorites because his awareness,
Why?
because he quote unquote preaches too much.
Oh
And
my
I get
goodness.
it. Like some people don't want to constantly hear preaching, but I'm telling you, he was so far ahead of the curve. And I'll be honest with you, that's why I got my tinfoil hat the way I got it. That's why I rock it to the side and not have shame because these things have been spoken on from way back when. Again, we can go with Public Enemy and Brand Nubian and KRS-One. I mean, the list goes on.
The
We've been
list goes
warned.
on.
We've been warned of this a long time ago.
And
Um,
I think that's what hip hop is. It was the messenger. It was the
exactly,
vehicle for getting that message out. It was the way that people were telling you what was
exactly,
wrong with what was wrong with them. And
right,
that's what hip hop was. And I love the first line of this article where he says, I presented the idea of hip hop being a culture 10 years ago. And even when I was an ethics editor at Blaze, and he said now all of a sudden the mainstream has accepted hip hop as a culture. Harvard University is doing a hip hop archive.
right,
They're in cultural studies courses, but what
right,
he wanted was for them to move to self-government. He wanted us to keep
yep,
it for us
right.
instead of the entertainment industry saying, "Well, we'll take your talent, but we'll give you what we think it's worth."
Right, and his thing has always been as a society, as hip hop being its own society, that we need to
Mhm.
take responsibility and basically, again, like you said, create our own government. He's always mentioned hip hop as a rebirth of an ancient civilization. Is
And
the way that he speaks it, and it's so true the way that
it's
he
so
breaks it
deep.
down.
It's
Yep.
esoteric. I mean, you got to take him seriously. How can you say he's preaching? He's teaching. He's really saying you should be paying attention. This is what's going on. And the last part of the article, because it was just an excerpt, you apparently billboards behind a paywall for the whole article. He was saying, "Our day is coming. It's inevitable that the president in another 5 years will be a hip hopper. The mayor of Chicago will be somebody who grew up on NWA, Chuck D, even Little Kim and Foxy Brown. All of it will make sense then."
Right.
And I think there's truth to that. There
Yep.
is. There will be a hip hop president because they will reference Tupac in their speeches. They will reference, you know, whoever, because it'll come from that culture, because we are the culture of cool.
Right.
And unfortunately, what we're discovering in this movement is that they want our rhythm but not our blues.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we knew it. Other people are finding it out now. And I think it is, I think hip hop has a role in the movement right now. And I think there are elder
Hip
statesmen. I
hop
think,
is the movement. Hip hop is
right.
the movement. Let me tell you, what I've noticed is, so I've been in contact with in my little area in Fredericksburg with some of the
Mm-hmm.
groups that have been doing the protesting out there. And if anybody that lives in that area knows anything, to see the level of protesting that we're seeing in this small town of Fredericksburg, Stafford, it's unprecedented. And then when you see the diversity that's behind it as well, and you see the characters behind it all, hip hop is the movement, man. It's never stopped. I think
You're right.
a lot of people in our age bracket that have grown up and got responsible, and we're not out there, tearing shit up. We look at it. We don't give them enough credit. These kids are intelligent. They're very aware of what's going on.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
they've picked up the breadcrumbs that have been left behind, and now they're taking charge of a movement. And I think we need to take notice of that.
They're putting their bodies out there on the line, reputations, everything, because of course everything's filmed. Your face is on TV. Your future college could be looking at this. Future employers can look this up. But these kids are putting themselves out there physically and mentally. They are
Yeah,
going through it. I mean,
that's
the
it.
images that are coming back from these protests with kids being hit with rubber bullets, and one girl died from being tear gassed because it triggered her asthma attack and she had to go to the hospital.
Now, I had a conversation last night that was pretty interesting. So there was a 70-year-old man, a 50-year-old man, myself, and a younger gentleman, and we kind of had this conversation. And the younger gentleman mentioned it, kind of brought up the unfairness of everything and why can't it change. And I'm sitting there looking at him, and I'm like, that's me at that age, right?
Hmm.
So then I turned to him and said, I've only been here for 45 years, and I've seen the same issues over and over again. The 50-year-old turns around and says, I've been here for 50 years and it's been the same issues. The 70
Thank
year
you.
old turns and says, I've been here for 70 and it's the same issues.
Thank
So,
you.
you know,
The
we
more
got a
things
long
change, the more things stay the same. Yeah.
right. But I don't know if you realize, I know this is a little off the cuff. We hadn't planned to talk about this, but you do recognize that currently in Israel, Palestinians and Israelis are now um, protesting the annex of Palestine right now.
Oh, I hadn't heard about that. I usually keep up with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and
Oh,
it's big. There is, and they said that the police did not want them to do it, and they did it anyway because they were telling them, COVID and this, that, and the third. If you go and look at the pictures and the scene that's going on right now out there,
wow.
the awakening is upon us.
It's the seventh sign. No, I mean, to see, yeah, and that is still a good topic. That's a part of this too, because it can lead into our next topic, the worldwide solidarity. The pictures of plazas and squares filled with people and signs and loudspeakers and just the overwhelming numbers coming together because the world is in agreement that a man was killed in an unconscionable way. That's the
Yep.
basis of it. You cannot just kill with impunity and people are supposed to be okay with it. And that's what they saw. There were protests in Berlin, Helsinki, London, Dublin, Africa.
The
Everywhere is coming out in
the
solidarity.
awakening,
Australia.
the
I
awakening is
mean,
upon
but
us.
now what I think is interesting is that because they've seen how it's popped off here, it's a jump off here. Now everybody's taking the protest and personalizing it, for lack of a
As
better
they
word.
should, as they should,
So
because oppression is not just happening in the U.S. It's
it's not unique
everywhere.
to us. It's
Listen,
we do not have a monopoly on racism and every other struggle.
and I'll just say this, and this is a direct quote from KRS-One, and he, and I think I'll change a word in it, but for all you people that think you're down with America, you can forget it because they tax all of us one by one. So,
And yeah, and I think that's what it comes down. We do not have the market cornered on oppression and struggle. Um, I think what pisses people off in America for being the greatest quote unquote country in the world is that because you keep saying that, we're going to hold you to a certain standard. And
oh
yet here we are
yes,
with people living next to open sewers. There are reservations that
yes.
you gave to Indians that don't have running water. We have poverty and hunger in this country that's supposed to be the greatest industrialized nation on the earth, and yet these are the things that are happening. So because I love this country, I reserve the right to criticize it perpetually. That's James Baldwin.
Yeah, technology, having an abundance of high end technology does not make you an advanced civilization.
Mm-mm.
And and that's pretty. You can have all the cameras in the world you want. The one thing they didn't bank on when they provided all these cameras to everybody was that they would be used against them. They didn't bank
Thank
on
you.
that. They
No,
thought they're going to surveil and do what they want to do until they realize, well, shit, that same camera that we were going to use for them, they can now use on us.
it's
Proof,
being turned on them.
and the proof is in the pudding with your staged bricks and your men running around with umbrellas, busting out windows and starting fires.
Exactly. Color of the day, armbands and wristbands. Like that, people are on to you. They're on to you.
Right.
So I think that goes, the protests that are happening around the world, the solidarity, and then like in Australia, they're protesting in solidarity, but then they're turning it into their own. Well, you know what? Now we're going to take this struggle and talk about the indigenous people and indigenous rights. And Hong Kong, they're still having their pro-democracy protests. And I'll tell you one thing. I was asking for the protest songs last week, and they are finally starting to come out because Hong Kong will blast hip hop music. People are
Oh
coming
yeah.
under the banner of hip hop and using that to pump themselves up, taking that message, our message as hip hop citizens, and saying, because we relate to this message, because we feel it on that level, we're going to use it to inspire us and we're going to pump it out and blast it out. And the protest songs are finally coming down. So we have a few that have come into the mix. If anybody remembers Nappy Roots,
Oh
they've
yeah.
come out with a new video, Blind Faith. I peeped it the other day and it's really good.
Are we able to pull that up, or I don't know if the
I'm
guys are
not
able to
sure if
pull
we
that up in
have
the
it for
control room?
in the control room. I'm not sure if they have it. I've got the link in the outline, but people can definitely look it up for themselves. I'm telling you guys, Nappy Roots, Blind Faith video, even Trey Songs, the R&B corner. Trey Songs, I try not to laugh. Trey Songs came out with a protest song called "How Many Times." He was very serious, so I'm trying not to laugh. And he wanted there are two songs on, I don't know if you call it an EP. He just put out two singles in relation to
Okay.
the current events, and he
Right.
wanted everybody to hear that and hear that he was putting his piece together. um,
Oh,
do we
so
have
we
this?
do.
Oh, okay,
We
this is the
do have it.
article. This is the article. I don't know if we can play the clip. We don't want, any technical difficulties to derail the discussion. And like in the discussion, you guys, you can call in. You don't have to just talk to everybody in the chat. We've got the link in the description. We've got the link pinned. It doesn't have to be just me and Architect talking to each other. We want you to be a part of the discussion. That's what the Sunday special report is for. We want to hear from our fellow hip hop citizens. Make sure you share the stream. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit us up on I think we have an Instagram, and we're considering Twitch. So look out for special announcements like that. But we want to make sure all our hip hop citizens feel a part of the conversation. So please make sure that if you want to jump in at any point with us with the topics for discussion, please call in. What other protest songs have you heard, Architect? Have you heard any that are specifically
And
protest songs?
honestly, my thing has been it's I've just been going back to my Public Enemy. Fear of a Black Plane has probably been played the most it has since the first time that I heard that album in my youth. And I don't know, that album specifically sticks to me when it comes down to
Aaron
these.
Jones, we're saying we got to fight the powers that be.
That's it. That's it.
I definitely have gone back to the images in my head of Professor Griff, of Flavor Flav being the hype man, basically their DJ. I mean, that's what it was about. They were aware back then too. They were woke before things were woke. They
Right.
have been trying to tell us for years. And I'm glad, though, I have to say this, I'm glad that this is a catalyst to a turning point. A lot of people are mad that George Floyd is being used as a catalyst, like we've discussed offline, like Candace Owens and Fox News in general, are mad that somebody who had a record and may have had
Listen,
meth
that
in his
doesn't take
system.
away, and I
And
think that bothers me because that does not take away from what the hell they did. You're
thank
not the
you.
judge, juror, and executioner. That's not how the game is played.
It's
So,
not supposed to be.
that's one thing that they constantly do. God forbid if all my past is ever used against me. Good Lord. Like,
But in your death, like that's the time to bring it up. Well, he held a
right,
gun to a pregnant woman's stomach. Okay, so that you get death for that. He served
right,
his time. Like,
right.
no, it's not a fabulous thing he did, but he served his time. He was trying to turn his life around. At some point, either this week or next week, we're going to dive into George Floyd's music. And he was a Houston rapper. He was known, and the crew he ran with was known. So that's another aspect of how hip hop is in all our lives for everything.
The man was already handcuffed. You already had him subdued. Like, what does his history have to do with anything? Get off of that shit.
Like,
Anybody that
I want to hear
uses
that
that,
whole thought process played out. Okay, so he had a criminal record. He may have had meth in his system, and he was COVID-19 positive. Sorry. What
no,
part
yeah,
of
that's
that
some bullshit.
warrants?
Like, they even brought that into the fold, right? They brought COVID in.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, so what part of that warrants death? Tell me
Yeah,
what part of that should have ended in death. Like, I want you to
right.
play this thought process all the way. I want to hear somebody play it all the way out to, and he should be dead. Like, in what world should you come to that conclusion? That's why this has become the movement that it is. And one person that also had something to say was Meek Mill. Now, I'm not a Meek Mill fan. Like, I don't really listen to him, but I have nothing against him. But for some reason, people are really not feeling him at this moment in time. Because the Billboard article that I referenced, I think his song is called "The Other Side of America," and he was talking about it. Now, Meek Mill also has a background dealing with the criminal justice system, and the last time he was in jail, people protested for him. They were mad about basically a perpetual probation that he was on, and they went to the jail. They demanded his release. He went
Well,
to the
they said I believe
helicopter.
with that case there was a conflict of interest, if I'm not mistaken. Some about the I don't know if it was the
I think it was the
judge or the
prosecutor,
prosecutor.
yeah, it was something along those lines. I just remember, and this is the article we're seeing on the screen right now. Shout out to hiphopdx.com. That's where a lot of great news and information comes from as far as the hip hop community, as well as us here at Hip Hop Citizen. But we want to give credit where credit is due. Meek Mill had his own run-ins with the criminal justice system, and he was working on prison and criminal justice reform on his own, like in the
Right.
background.
Him and Jay-Z, I believe, right?
I
And
believe
if I'm not
so.
mistaken, did Robert Kraft get involved? I don't know. I can't remember who was that
I'm
got
not sure
involved
if
with him.
Robert Kraft was the one that I think sent his helicopter to pick him up when he was released. I can't recall at this point. But the
Robert
problem that people
Kraft
are
is a
having,
G.
that people are having once again, the social media mob is mad. I guess because, like we were saying earlier in the show, it wasn't enough. He wasn't doing
Right.
enough. Like, why didn't you come out sooner? Why aren't you physically at the protest? We rode for you. Are you going to ride for us?
So here's another thing when you talk about not enough, and I feel like I want to address this just because I've
Yeah.
experienced a little bit of this through
Oh.
people that I may know,
Oh.
in terms of them not doing enough. So
Okay.
there's a lot of complaining about that. There's not enough white allies. Okay. And I don't know if that's just specific to our demographic or our age group. Like we're kind of set in our ways. And so we kind of knee jerk reaction to it, right? That we don't
Mm-hmm.
have enough white allies, right? But when one of your white allies posts or speaks on it and you kind of tell them it's not good enough at every turn, what do they do? Like,
They
what are they to
stop.
do? Right?
Yeah.
So of course, when you're talking like the protests, yes, spray painting on shit is whatever. It's not helping the cause. But if they're stepping up and they're saying this is wrong, but then people are going behind them and saying, you're not saying this is wrong the right way. Like,
Right.
I'm seeing a lot of that too. And I think that shit needs to stop too. We got to stop that
It's
because
one
they don't
thing to
have to say
hold.
anything. There's a shit ton of them that aren't saying a damn thing.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Correct.
And
Oh
so,
yeah.
at some point, I'm just saying that shit's got to stop, man. We got to take our allies. Yes, educate them if you feel like it's not the right way, but you know, they're damned if
Yeah.
they do, damned if they don't.
I swear it's never going to be enough, and it's just like, it's one thing for Coach, for example, to post a
What
black
up, Ron
square and
Howard?
talk about, hey, what's up, Ron, and talk about diversity and how they support it and blah blah blah. And then people in the comment section are saying, well, what does your board look like? Who is your CEO? How much diversity is there in your C-suite?
Right,
Okay, that's a call out. That is, you know, a constructive criticism. Okay,
right,
that makes sense. But when a friend of mine from London got in touch with me and said, I posted something, um, that was a post of a Twitter feed, and I can't remember what it's saying right now, but he basically said in the Twitter post, he's like, oh, for white people, it wasn't that they like black people, it's that they liked you. They like you specifically. It's not that they like
mm,
black people in general. So that was the gist of the post. And I put it on Facebook and said that part. And of course,
mm,
my white friend from London said, well, what do you mean? What does this mean? Because he totally didn't get it. He
right,
was oblivious to what this meant. And so we had to take the conversation offline. And
right.
I took the time to explain it. I didn't shame him. I didn't say, I don't have time to tell you right now, blah, blah. I really broke it down as best I could for somebody who just was, you know, naive to what the struggle is about. Now, if it's just some rando in the comment section, no, I don't have time to break down 400 years of oppression
Right,
and
right.
systemic racism for you. No, go use Google. But
Yeah,
for a friend, I will take the time.
it's just we're in a situation now where if again, and we said this, alluded to this a little earlier, where if you take a stance on one thing, you're now painted with a broad brushstroke that this is
Hmm.
exactly what you are. Nobody believes that you can be dynamic and have different views in different areas, you know. Um,
Yeah,
and that's a big issue right now because we're trying to make change and do the right thing. Sometimes I'm looking at these younger kids and I'm like, they might know a little more than we do. We might be the
right.
dumbasses because we're so
I,
busy and caught up from years of emotion and pain
hmm
that they're able to kind of, I guess,
Be
be a little
clear.
more in the age of more of the innocence perspective where we've kind of been
Right.
tainted because of the situations we've dealt with through our time.
I agree with you. I mean, they are wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. They're idealistic, and I think it makes me think of a saying that, in your 20s, you start out a liberal and a Democrat, and by the time you're 70, you're a conservative, because you change over the years.
Right.
I've read that somewhere, but it has a point, because you get so jaded and cynical as you age and see what you've seen what this world can do to you, been beat down by it, that you lose that idealism. You lose that naivete that anything can be done if we just come
Right.
together and be positive. You want to slap somebody when they say that to you the rest of the time, but when it comes to this, we got
See,
to
I've
give
never
them
let
all the
go of that.
support we can.
I've never let
Okay.
go of that for
I'm
me.
I'm cynical and jaded. I am that person. I'm a grumpy old woman at this point.
Yeah, I've just never let go of it, just because I think of the people that I've kept around me.
Yeah.
I come from a circle of friends that were of all different races. Okay, and I'm telling
Mhm.
you that if anybody was to sit in our circle and hear the conversations and the shit that we talk to each other, if it was in a work environment, everybody getting fired. I'm serious with that, because we recognize that that's just the label that's been put on us. We understand, like, and I posted this prior. We're a soul
Yeah.
family. We don't see
I saw
all of
that
that
post.
stuff,
Yeah. And
and I just can't let that go. And so when I see these young kids out there and I'm seeing the diversity, I can't lie. I had to be talked down on a couple occasions because I wanted to go out there
and see,
and
that comes with age too. We're like, I'm too old and it's past my bedtime and my
right,
knee hurts.
but
Like,
I wanted to be out there, and I got
and
warned.
I feel that. I
You
do. I
know,
feel that.
I
But
got
then I don't
warned.
appreciate being kettled by the police. So
Yeah,
that's what keeps my ass at home. I'll be
right,
honest. But
right,
I support the idealism. I support the feeling that they can be the change they want to see in the world. They have the energy for it. How about that? They've got the energy for that. And I support them fully in
man. Let
taking
me
that
tell you.
energy and putting it into something positive.
You know what? I gotta tell you. Um, I'm trying to find these young kids because I think they need to be followed because
Hmm.
uh, they are on it. They are really on it. But these young men and women in downtown Fredericksburg, they protested and they still protesting right now as we speak. They protested every single day. In one of the
Hmm.
areas that they protested in, there was an auction slave block that's been there for since I've been out there. And this resides on a street corner. You can walk right up to it, and literally the slave auction block is embedded in the ground, and you can see it. These
Oh,
kids,
okay.
these kids organized to the point where they forced the town to remove that auction slave block. They kept saying, "Yeah, we're going to remove it. Yeah, we're going to remove it." No, they like, "You need to remove it now," and they got that block removed. Okay, they
Wow.
kept protesting. They kept protesting, and what they did was they filmed everything that the cops were doing to them.
Hmm.
Now, the town, of course, initiated a curfew. Well, yesterday there was a letter that came out. They lifted the curfew. So these kids are not playing around. They're
Oh,
smarter than we're giving them
huh.
credit for. They are going to city hall. They're sitting
Yep.
down with council members. Like,
Yep.
these kids, they get it. They're
They get it.
they don't get enough credit. I'm telling you.
And I want to give them that credit. I'm not going to slap down their ideas. I'm not going to be the one to tell them they can't do it. And that's why I kept saying these protest songs need to come out, because this is what motivates. The art needs to be there. The music needs to be there. Blast it while you're walking along. Have it in your AirPods while you're marching, because when you start to get tired and you're tired of seeing your friends pushed around and it's hot, I mean, all sorts of things can discourage you, but you put on NWA, you put on Sounds of the Police, you put on Janet Jackson, AT14. That's just as good as anything else. When you put that on in your ears, you hear the support, you hear your motivation.
And
And
I
I
think
think
maybe
that's
that's why I
why.
wanted to go to the front lines. I wanted to take my
Hmm.
cameras. I wanted to go down there. Everybody knows that I generally keep a camera with me. I wanted to
Right.
go down there and be right up front and catch everything that was
Absolutely.
going on. And a couple of the elder statesmen was like, "Nah, you already know how you are.
Hmm.
you're gonna see something you don't like. The camera's gonna get put down, and it's gonna turn into an issue." Um,
Right.
but
Right.
so anyway, I wanted to, if I could, share their tag on Instagram
Oh, yeah.
for
Put their socials
anybody
out
that's
there.
watching now
Yep.
live or anybody that watches the replay. The name is Leaders for Peace. They're on Instagram, And Anthony Fouté and Eddie Banks have combined. As a young lady and a young gentleman have combined forces to lead the charge out in Fredericksburg. So I just wanted to give kudos to them because it's huge. And if you care to look, you can look at Architect Seven on Instagram and look at my last two posts, and it'll show you where the block was. They stood on it, and it'll show you how it was removed.
Okay. And do they have an Instagram, and do they have a place where people can follow and support and watch what they're doing?
Yes, that is at Leaders for Peace. I believe
Okay.
that's their combined site. They post a lot of videos as to what's going on out there.
Hmm.
Eddie Banks is on Facebook, and Anthony Fouté is also on Facebook. But I suggest you check them out, and you'll see that we don't give these young heads enough credit, man.
Okay, Gary is letting us know MC Shan just came out with a new joint. Okay. What do you say
Okay.
about the situation going on right now? So, see, everybody's coming out the woodwork now, and that's what I wanted. I wanted people to step up and use the art, because it's a time like this that the artists come up and they are telling people that they see them and they're going to carry their message. All the frustration and the yelling and the fires and everything else is going to be distilled down into the art, whether it's music or dance. Banksy just came out with a new art piece to support the protests and the movement that's going on right now. So, I mean, this is where it comes from, and hip hop is a part of that. That's why on the Sunday Special Report, we want to dive deeper into the issues that are hip hop adjacent. We want to be able to have that discussion with you guys. You don't have to just hide in the chat. Use the call in link. We want to hear from the fellow hip hop citizens and see what everybody's talking about. But make sure you also follow us. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, like, share, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Share this stream with your friends. If you guys have been having your own discussions offline, watch this with them, share this with them, let them know that these are the perspectives that are coming up in relation to hip hop and how hip hop is related to everything that's been going on now, before, and in the future. What I also want to do before, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up this young lady I just discovered, and I am late. How do you say architect Sarak? Apparently,
Uh-huh.
she's a DC rapper, and she just had a Tiny Desk at Home concert on NPR. Please go look her up on YouTube. She is also on Instagram. I believe it's at Sarak, and it's spelled SA-ROC. Or you can just run it all together on Instagram. She's gorgeous. She has this great song called Forever that I heard on YouTube, and it just washed over me. And I
And
was just
look,
like, oh my God.
DC is full of revolutionaries. I don't know if you ever heard of Priest the Nomad. You got Dirty Church. Um, those Priest the Nomad is incredible. He's always been on the issues, and Dirty
Hmm.
Church as well. I believe the lead guy is Tim Hicks, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, Dirty. If you look up Dirty
Okay.
Church, those are other movements that even prior to these issues popping up, they've been on top of it. This is
Okay.
what they discuss on an everyday basis.
And that's what we want to encourage our listeners to do as well, is go out and find those independent artists that are putting out the videos, that are on the front lines, that they're talking about the issues, because those independent artists are not beholding to the corporation, to BMI, to Universal. There's a contract that they have to stick to, and there are certain guidelines. They are the ones that are bringing that message to you unfiltered. And so where you hear them, stream it, support it, hit their Patreon, hit them on Cash App. Make sure they feel that love for hip hop from hip hop citizens to them. And one last topic, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to kind of bring something up, and it's kind of
Yeah.
again a quick thing. I don't know if you guys been seeing that Minnesota is talking about completely restructuring their police force, defunding the current
Oh
uh,
yeah.
police department, and really um, reshaping how public safety and law enforcement is done. I'm curious to see how that ends up.
I mean, I saw something about that going around. It's hashtag 8 can't wait, and there's already pushback, because what a lot of people are saying is that it's not realistic to completely dismantle a police force, because there's still violent crime that needs to be addressed. There are still issues that require a governmental agency to handle, but at the same time, people want that reform to be on a community level. They want the demilitarization. They don't want them to have billion-dollar budgets like LA and New York. I've seen that going around, and maybe that's a topic we need to get into ourselves, maybe next Sunday
Yeah.
or on Friday Night Live, and we can go into a deeper dive for that, because a lot of people are circulating that, and there's already pushback.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that'll work.
It's going to be interesting. So I want you guys to look out for the protest songs that have finally come out, support those artists, and make sure that you support the art in all forms that's a part of this movement. The last topic we want to discuss tonight is one that's been going across the screen. And architects, should we even be looking to entertainers and athletes and politicians to affect change? Like, should we be looking to them?
You know, I'm a firm believer that it all starts at the grassroots, and I think that as I was speaking on earlier, it's about us being in tune with those people that are actually in the front lines, taking to the streets, supporting those causes in whatever way, shape, or form that we can. I don't know that, you know, celebrities are going to do what they're going to do, and you know, that's a hard one for me. I don't know if I can depend on more from a moral perspective. Yes, they should.
Okay.
But, you know,
I'm kind of with you, because it works better when it's at a grassroots level. And that's with anything. If it's local to you, then you should be working on it. Ariana Grande can't help me with police reform in my city.
exactly.
You know, it's like
Right.
Madonna, you know, marching in London can't help me with, you know, defunding the police department if I wanted that to happen where I am. So that's different. But at the same time, because people turn to them, I think, because they have that large platform. They have 100 million followers on Instagram, and they have, you know, a YouTube channel that gets all these streams and hits and everything. So that's why people listen to them. It is beneficial when they do it, because we all saw the Beyonce video that came out almost immediately after the George Floyd protest began. She immediately did her close up thing, and just, you know, with her natural hair glowing for all the members of the Beehive, and she you know, she looked great and put her message out there. And then came the naysayers, like we
Yeah,
were talking
and
about
that's what I'm
before.
saying. That it's never
Yeah,
enough. Like we
she
said
had a
before, you know.
filter that was a weave. You can see the lace front.
And
Why
they're
does she
focusing on the
talk
wrong
like
shit.
that? Yeah, and I'm, you know, why does she talk like now? Hey, I don't like listening to her speak either, but something about her voice. But at the same time, the message was clear. And Beyonce moves in silence. I'm not a stan, but I know what she's done in the background. She's given scholarships. She's put kids through school. She's putting together bailout funds for the protesters. If they need bail, she'll help them make it. So they don't know everything that she's doing. Should they broadcast it? Architects, should celebrities tell
I
people
don't
what
think
they
there's a
do?
need to. I don't think there's a need to. I don't think there's a need to broadcast. I don't think everybody needs to know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, I
Um,
don't.
Gabe,
I don't know.
Gabriel
I don't.
Tolliver is making a good point in saying that, from our last discussion, that police unions and fraternal order of police are going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that any kind of changes, whether it's restorative justice or community policing, they're going to fight tooth and nail. I mean, they're already defending the people that pushed that old man down.
The issue is we police
We need to
for
go more in
profits.
depth with that.
We police for profits. I mean, you think about it. Just from the
Hmm.
if you go down to the weeds, you got traffic cameras. You don't got traffic police no more. You know, it's
Right. No,
all
it's the
about
camera,
money.
and you
Yeah,
get the bill in the mail.
right. And that's
It's
what it is.
ridiculous.
When you police for profit, it's never going to work. There's always going to be a conflict of interest, and at the end of the day, that's what we get. And honestly, that's what got me out of the lifestyle that I led many years ago. Is because I got tired of court fees. If I didn't have court
See,
fees, I
that's
don't know.
they
I may
affect your
have I may have
pockets.
kept up.
They
They
affect your
made me.
pockets. That's how they get you to stop that mess. Because that's what stopped me from speeding. I was tired of paying tickets.
So
I was tired.
the same way that they affect our pockets, we need to learn how we can affect theirs.
There you
That's the
go.
goal. That is
There
the
you
goal.
go. Don't make us build Black Wall Street again, because we'll
I'm
do it.
telling you, and I'm telling
We
you.
will do it.
Bottom line, they want to affect our pockets. We can affect yours too.
Don't make
Stop
us.
playing.
We will get creative.
And and,
One thing I
and
do
it's
have
not
a
just
tinfoil.
it's not just again, it's not just black folks. These are human beings at this point are realizing the sham. So they better wake up.
Everybody's like getting the veil lifted. They're coming out the
Yep.
cave.
The
And
awakening is upon us.
will you stop sounding sinister? I was gonna say the one thing I do have a tinfoil hat about is the prison industrial complex. Like I firmly believe it's a pipeline because the stats are there and the personal stories are there and you can see it. You can
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
So that is something else we might have to do another Sunday special report about is just, policing and how, hip hop has talked about it, how it's affected the community. And maybe we do need to talk about it more in depth if changes are going to come and if they're going to be possible. But we were discussing how entertainers and celebrities, should we be taking them seriously? I'm wondering if Dialect in the green room, if he puts down the glass of punch, if he has that clip of Malcolm X back in the 60s talking about what he thought about celebrities and how they're used by the white establishment to kind of placate Black people. And I thought it was an interesting clip. And I want you guys to listen to this clip and see what you think from there. Hit it up, Dialect. If we can get the sound.
Yeah, I'm getting no audio.
This is live TV, folks. Isn't that what they say? It's live TV. Let me
But
see what
look, I
Dialect
mean,
says.
that's you got to look at it from every perspective. That's what they are.
That's a good point.
These Hollywood people are mouthpieces. They are tools that are being used
While I
to
understand that
influence all people, or we would not be having the conversation about should we depend on celebrities to speak
exactly.
up. So
I don't necessarily need Ariana Grande to tell me about my struggle, but it's nice that she's using her platform to reach people who may not know. Oh, we got it. We got it queued up.
nah,
No. Okay. Well, I'm going to encourage people to look this up. This is Malcolm X speaking on Black leaders in the struggle for equality in the 60s. I'll have to see if I can find the link and maybe put it in the comments. But it was a really profound 2-minute clip. And basically, he was saying, oh, third time's charm.
These leaders.
there you go.
Called leaders. This included Lena Horne. This included Dick Gregory. And this included comedians, comics, trumpet players, baseball players. Show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader, or a dancer or a trumpet player is a white leader. These aren't leaders. These are puppets and clowns that have been set up over the white community and over the black community by the white community and have been made celebrities and usually say exactly what they know that the white man wants to hear. And it is an honor, actually, that they endorsed Dr. Martin Luther King. And
So his speech goes on a little longer, but that beginning of his speech is what I'm talking about. Like, should we be looking at them with a side eye? Because he had a good point then, and I think it's a relevant point now. What do you think, Architect?
No, I think that's very valid. I mean, let's just look at coronavirus and how that message was spread. It was all celebrities, the Tom Hanks, and they used a lot of celebrities first to pass that message along. The people that have the sphere of influence to affect how people react. So I think it's 100% correct.
I'm not sure. This is where I take my tinfoil hat off. I'm not sure if they are plants, as Malcolm is alluding to, like maybe a studio head has put, Gabrielle Union out there to advocate for LGBT rights, and then a studio head has put Ariana Grande out there and said, "Okay, go look pretty and go march in
Yeah,
LA."
I don't know if it's that intricate. I don't know that it's that intricate.
Maybe
It could be. It could be, and I'm sure there
anything's
may be some.
possible.
There may be some. Let's
There
not be
there may
fooled
be
that there may
some.
be some. It's not saying all, but it's just to say that they, like you said, they have a sphere of influence that can affect the minds of the masses. So why not recruit them to push a message? I mean,
I
makes
mean,
total
can
sense.
blacks?
Yep.
Because
You
then
sell
that's the
products
next.
like that, so why wouldn't you sell a message that way?
Exactly what you're saying. And I mean, now the questions are being asked of people, can Black celebs be trusted to stay true to the cause? Because like we said earlier, when um, Killer Mike and T.I.'s real estate holdings in Buckhead were starting to get, torched, Then they came out and had something to say. But before that, they were down. Killer
Hey,
Mike
look,
on trigger warning. Burn
anybody
it all
knows.
down.
Anybody knows that your homeboy ain't always your homeboy.
Skin folk ain't kinfolk.
That's it. Sometimes the people that are closest
Not
to you
always.
will do you the dirtiest. So
Can
again,
they be trusted to stay true to the cause when it comes right down to it? And I will say
that's on an
one dude
individual basis.
that was a real one, John Boyega.
I mean,
He
look,
played.
LeBron, I have to give it to him, man. That guy
Yeah,
speaks his mind, and he's got a huge platform. So,
he was
again,
up there with the hoodie with Trayvon. I can't believe it's been that long. He was up there with the hoodie with Trayvon, and he's putting his messages out now.
right.
He
So
is
it's all
10
on an
toes
individual
down.
basis. It's like anything in life, you
Hmm.
have to process it on an individual basis. You can't just give everybody that.
But see, at the same time, then I got to look back at there is laughable moments, even amidst all this pain. Um, Ray J, Brandy's little brother, showed up to a protest in a convertible Rolls with Nike slides on with some socks and a mask. And the crowd, see, when you go to these protests, please remember that you are outnumbered. Don't show up to the protest with a sword and think you're going to help protect the police. Please realize you will be run over like the scarabs in the mummy.
Or a bow and
Every
arrow.
time one of these fools comes out here, crossbow Chris, wheelchair Wendy, you will be run over. Do you hear me? Stop that mess.
Yeah,
So they
as far as
surrounded the car and told Ray J, get out the car, get out the car. And it was dropped. The top was dropped. And he had to get out the car.
yeah, see. Yeah, I don't know that I'd have brought the rolls out to that joint.
It was the
I,
rolls. It was a
I might have
drop
got
top
dropped off or something.
rolls.
Yeah, I might have got dropped off. I don't think I'm gonna take the rolls out there.
And thank you. I would have took an Uber 3 blocks back and walked. He
I
drove
got a
into the
Dodge Avenger. I
crowd.
don't even think I'd take that out there.
See, I would have took the bus. Um, then one of my favorite comedians, shout out to Kev on stage, he brought up that Deion Sanders Jr., Deion Sanders' son, he
Hmm.
wanted to jump out there. He wanted to be of the people, even though he's had a very privileged life. Let's not front. Um,
Hmm.
he drove down there and decided he was going to help direct traffic and he was going to dap up the protesters and go about his day. He drove down there in a Porsche Cayenne.
Hmm.
And my man parked the Cayenne like at a meter or something and went and did his thing. When he came back, his Cayenne was tore down. It was like covered in crap. It was scratched up. And he gonna get on social media talking about they, messed up my Porsche. But bruh, you took a Porsche to a protest.
Welp. Welp.
Welcome to another episode of That's Your Stupid Ass.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
There
Crazy.
was a clip that came out today. Madonna out there on crutches. I don't know what she did to herself. Um, and she is surrounded by black bodies. And you know how pale Madonna is. She just stood out like
Well, she's always loved the culture now. Let's not fake on that.
no, she loves our skin. There's no problem with
She's
that.
already said that. She put that out there.
But the thing is, I'm like these celebrities, I gotta take it with a grain of salt. I can't help but laugh when they do little stunts like that. I can't take you seriously. Like I know you
Yeah.
mean well, but I keep bringing up Ariana, but don't put your mask on and pose for the gram with a Clarendon filter and then jump out and walk with the protest for 3 blocks and then go home. Like don't do that.
Right.
Like it's very trite. It's very dismissive. Definitely pandering. And where are you going to be in 6 months? Are you still going to be with us? Are you going to
What
be
is
at a
it? What
city
did the
council
young head
meeting?
say? The young head
What?
say clout chasing.
Oh, what the kids on my lawn say. Yeah, that you
Yeah.
clout chasing,
Right. Right.
as they say. So yeah, that part is. I'm just a crotchety old person. It's not appreciated when they do it like that. Now, celebrities that use their platform to put out the information, like Tracy Ellis Ross on Instagram. Now that I have one at It's Diva Views, she is really putting out the information, especially Justice for Brianna. It's not just hashtags. She's giving you phone numbers. She's giving you websites. BLMLA. She's telling you where to donate. She put together a whole infographic of what you can do. That's helpful.
Right.
just telling your friends to be nice and kind to everyone will get you dragged in the comment section. You're
Well,
like,
that's a standard protocol anyway.
yeah, like that's the
Even before
baseline.
all this, right? It doesn't take this to
Thank
say
you.
that.
That's the baseline. There's a lot of, unfortunately, misguided efforts. Now, we mentioned earlier the worldwide protests, everybody in solidarity. Trust me, it brought me to tears. Like
Oh yeah,
Italy
you ain't the only
in
one.
front of the US embassy, kneeling and saying, I can't breathe. I mean, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
But then we've got the Arab celebrities over in the Middle East. For some reason, in an act of solidarity, the Arab celebrities decided to post blackface photos. They
Really?
decided that they would darken their skin even more so, because if you are of Arab or Middle Eastern descent, you're kind of olive skinned. So they darkened their skin more. This one actress like superimposed her face onto a black model's body and left some kind of hashtag under her caption. Then another chick like did her face half half black, half white in solidarity. I mean,
Wow. Well, that's
what
something
can
in
you say
business,
to
right? That
that?
they try to teach you so that you learn not to like some things mean one thing in another country. So make sure you know what you're
What you're getting
right.
behind. Like
Yeah,
you can't
I don't
do
know
the
how hard
okay
I'll
sign.
brutalize them on that.
You can't do the okay sign in some countries, I guess. So you got to learn who you're speaking to. Same thing in
Yeah.
India. Indian actors, Bollywood actors, love me some Bollywood, came out and said they stand in solidarity as well. A couple of them did the same thing, blackface, but then they got a little backlash because a couple of other Indian celebrities were like, "Well, great, you're supporting somebody all the way over in America. What about the issues we're having here in our country? What about the Kashmiri? What about the caste system?" So they hit him with the whataboutism.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to what you said before. Like you can do both. You could do both. You could be concerned about George Floyd and you could be concerned about the Kashmiri.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's a mess, man. What do we do? What do we do?
Um,
I'm
can we
of
can
the
we
thought that
return 2020 to? I would like to speak to the manager. Like, can we return
for
2020
real,
for a
they hit me
complete
with
refund?
Kobe. Like
I mean,
then
from the
COVID came
beginning.
right
I mean,
off jump.
2020 is just it gang jumped us. 2020 just throw the whole year
Yeah,
away,
been beating the shit out of us for real.
and it's only June.
Right.
It's only June 7th. Um, I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm so tired. It's getting to be about that time, folks. We appreciate you staying with us through this whole conversation, and we want to, reiterate the fact that hey, we see you in the chat room. You could have called us, Gary, Sherry, all y'all. We see you.
Oh
We
wow,
wanted
who's that? Who's this? Ab?
at
What is who?
who? How do
I
you
don't know
say
how to
that?
pronounce that.
I'm not sure what that
But
is. Um,
okay, salute in Arabic. That's what it looks like. Salute, brother, on YouTube.
okay. How
Yeah.
you
Okay.
know that? Let me find out. You international.
No, he translated it for us.
Oh, he translated it. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, brother. But and trust me, we appreciate the support. We appreciate the solidarity. But please know what you're doing before you before you post it.
Hey, look,
We
before we leave, I
yeah
know we're winding down.
yeah.
Everybody, do not forget that Tuesday nights, 8 to 9
Oh, that's
Eastern,
right.
we do have the Bash Brothers, and they'll be bringing some new underground rare hip hop, some good mashups, and I'm sure that somebody's gonna play some revolutionary music within that broadcast. And also, don't
Mm-hmm.
forget Friday the lunch mix with DJ Unknown, and we have a caller. Who's this? Gabriel.
Oh,
Hey, what's up,
Gabriel.
Architect
Hey,
7? Hey,
What's going
Diva.
on now?
All right, happy Sunday, quote unquote.
happy Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
What you got to
no.
say for the topics we had tonight? What you think?
Where do I start? I was gonna say about
Hey, Kimberly.
the colorism thing with India and the caste system and folks imitating. Hollywood is the biggest exporter of what I call cinematic white supremacy.
Mm.
So a lot of those views are imprinted on folks outside of here. So yeah, they think, they think one way about people, or, oh, that's cool, let me wear blackface.
Right, yeah.
And
Mistakenly. It's misguided. I don't think it's
yeah, yeah,
malice.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it's, depending on the reference and context, because,
Mm-hmm.
you go over in Japan, they got the darkening creams that a lot of them wear, some folks wear because
Get out of
they
here.
think, yeah, yeah, you can look it up,
I thought it was the other end of the spectrum. They got lightning creams in Korea.
yeah, they had darkening, with, imitating black culture. But, at the end of the day,
Wow.
it comes back to this media literacy. Yeah, there's the celebration and the imitation in some cases, but it's everything but the burden, and we
Right.
see that here. We see that
Yep.
here in America, especially.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. The
Yes.
rhythm and not the blues.
Yeah, yeah, yep. Want to be down, but when it really comes down to being
But not
down,
that
it's
far
like,
down.
Not that
right,
far down.
right,
Mm-mm.
right. Yeah,
Like
passing
everybody was
through.
invited to the
Right.
cookout. Well, this is
Right,
the cookout.
right. So yeah, just on that, and just about celebrities. It's like the '60s. You had Leonard Bernstein, the noted late composer.
Ah,
He would throw parties for the Black Panthers, and that was strictly because he was like, yo, to his rich friends, put some money in, give it to Eldridge and Huey and stuff
okay.
like that. So with these celebrities out here, depending on how they're vetted and what their sincerity is, yeah, hit them up for their cash, because not, like I said, not everybody can be on the front line. Not everybody can be the point of, the tip of the spear.
Right.
And
Right.
so, hey, if Ariana Grande has $100,000 to donate to the Bail Project, take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
come for me, Arianators. It's just that the image of her on Instagram stayed with me. I don't hate her. I think she's
Oh,
adorable.
I'm indifferent to her. Like, I don't hate her. I don't like her. I'm
Right.
indifferent. But hey, if she got money to donate to the cause, then
Exactly.
yeah, take it.
Right.
I
What did you
mean,
think of the clip we played from Malcolm X and what he had to say about whether or not black? Why are we looking to celebrities for black leaders?
well, I think it's appropriate to that time period, because I mean they were in the thick of it, and yeah, you had the Harry Belafontes and the Jim Browns and stuff like that. But I just think there was, I don't think he was wrong saying that, but I think it's about who, again, reference and context, because there were a lot
Okay.
of black entertainers that were down with the struggle, and they tried to do what they tried to do in that time period. Some of them were down by law. Other ones were questionable. So
Mm,
again, it's about reference and context. Just like how you talk about ML King or Malcolm. What period of time are you talking about them from? Especially Malcolm. Are you talking pre-Mecca, post-Mecca?
Right.
Reference and context. You talk about King. Uh, White liberal establishment likes to trot out the old
uh,
cliche, why, King
every
quotes,
time.
but they don't talk about, leading up to his death, the more radical conversations about the poor people's
He was
party, and
changing his mind. Yeah.
right, right, and talking about white liberals, and like, hey, I'm putting you on notice because your lip service. So again, that all, to me, it
So
all
like
comes
Joe
back down to
Biden.
media. Yeah, yeah, it's media literacy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think so. What did you think of the other topics we had going on tonight, Gabriel, with the elder statesmen of hip hop, the protest songs? Like, what say you on those things?
Oh, I'm still waiting for what's that word? A plethora of protest songs to come out. You
Right.
know, I'm
Oh,
waiting
okay.
for like Future. I'm waiting for Ti. I mean, the list
Hmm.
can go on and on.
Mm.
I'm waiting for like a big posse cut,
There
like
you
Self
go.
Destruction, or
Oh.
We're All in the Same Gang.
Mm. Mm.
I want a concert. We
Yeah,
had a
a
concert
concert.
for COVID. We had a concert for Katrina. I want a
Yeah,
concert.
yeah, concert. Yes, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So
So
absolutely, a festival, something that Glastonbury is
yes,
still having their festival.
right,
So
right.
absolutely, they should Live Aid style
Yeah,
something.
Yeah. Let's have a anti-racist concert, like celebrate fighting against racism. End racism concert or something.
Right.
It's
So
time for the arts. It really is a
yeah,
time for the arts
It
to
is
come
the
out and be
era.
that
It's the era
message.
yeah,
for it. Everything
and
that's going on.
quit being scared. Oh, I'm worried about my brand. I think it was
Yes.
I heard
Yes.
her say Don Lemon was calling people out
Mm-hmm.
last week
Yeah.
because people were like, "Oh, I don't want to hurt my brand." Well, you could be that. That could be your cousin, your nephew, or your niece that got shot up. And it's like
Man,
you worried
listen,
about your brand?
let's
Fuck
just
out of
think
here.
about this. Let's put this into perspective. Let's bring it to the NFL, right?
Oh,
Goodell putting
Ugh.
out his statement, right?
yeah,
His little bullshit statement.
yeah,
Can
yeah,
you
yeah.
imagine? I made a comment earlier today and I said, if every person of color in the NFL were to grab their shit and walk out,
Thank
Hmm.
you.
what would be left of the NFL? A friend of
Thank
mine
you.
Oh, they'd
said
be on their knees. Yeah,
kickers and fullbacks.
yeah,
Thank you. Your
yeah.
whole O line would be gone.
Yeah,
Gone.
yeah, exactly.
But
So,
nah, it's an
yeah,
interesting time that we're in.
yeah,
And
and
I hope that the change stays. I really hope
Oh, it's
6
coming.
months from
It's
now
coming.
we will see the results. I really
From a
hope it
global
doesn't just fade
perspective,
like everything else.
have you ever seen, and not that it hasn't existed, but at this point, when the visual that you're catching is Israelis and Palestinians are in a town square protesting together in the thousands. Have we ever seen
I
that?
gotta look that up. Because I'm
It's
yeah.
happening. It's
I
no,
gotta look
not
happening.
that
in
up.
that context, and it's interesting you mentioned Israeli and the Palestinians because, that is reflective of a lot of the real, coming together of folks there to, deal with their own issues. But we don't see that here in general, like, news organizations and outlets. It's always, the verses, it's always somebody against somebody with that, So the
Yeah.
fact that you see that shows that there is a contingent of folks that are, against the bullshit, the apartheid there,
Yeah.
and just,
Finally.
in solidarity. Yeah,
The
because
awakening is upon
yeah,
us.
or some of them Bible thumpers, this is Revelations,
Oh, the
this is
evangelicals.
Revelations.
Yeah.
Yeah, the evangelicals. Yeah,
Oh, they're loving
yeah,
this. They think the seven seals been opened.
yes, and they're and somebody's the Antichrist, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm not pointing
Yeah.
any fingers, but
Yeah. But yeah, in that perspective. But no, to your all's point, it is as the Chinese say, may you live in interesting times. It is, and there's always a flip side that one may look to like you said with the arts. The arts have always sprouted during times of oppression or when there's nothing there.
absolutely.
I keep hearing people say, I can't wait till things get back to normal. And my
Ain't
thought is,
happening.
I don't want that shit to go back to normal.
No,
We need something
it
new.
No,
can't.
We need
It
something
no.
can't
new.
go
This
back
is
to the way
time.
it was.
It's time now.
Yeah, I'm not trying to go back to psychotic capitalism. That's what I call it.
Mm.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's this is the change, and it's uncomfortable. It's
yeah,
messy. It will
yeah.
It's never
affect
pretty.
all of us.
It's
Just sit
never
back.
pretty.
And you need a healthy amount of resiliency and grit because
Absolutely.
yeah, that's what's going to get you through. And to keep it even more what they call stoic, it's like, look, not everybody's going to make it. Okay,
Yeah.
not and
Unfortunately.
and that's just real. And if it's your time to go, you just hope that you have made that dash mark between your born and death date meaningful.
That's it. Definitely.
Snaps.
Oh,
Snaps.
yeah.
Thank you, Gabriel, for
Yeah,
coming
no
in.
problem. Thank you for having me.
All
Yeah.
right,
Thank
man.
you so
All
much. We
right.
see you,
I'll catch up
Sherry.
to you.
All right, man.
Thank you for
That
listening.
was good.
We want to thank everybody that's been a part of this conversation today. Gabriel dropping knowledge, y'all. That was Gabriel Tolliver dropping knowledge. Hey, Sherry, we see you. Grace, we got Gary.
What up,
You guys have
Shari?
been riding with us the whole conversation, and we appreciate you so much. With the replay, make sure you share the stream. Make sure you tell your friends. Sunday night special report is where we take topics that are hip hop adjacent and go up. What is this? Watching the
He
season
said,
of 2020. What does it say? Can you read it? Hey, what you up to? Watching season 2020 of Earth. She's getting wild.
And don't forget
This is
Monday
why the
nights.
aliens won't visit us.
Right. Mondays 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern. DJ Rag,
Sunday,
DJ Scruff, the Bash Brothers.
the Bash
They are
Brothers.
not on steroids, but you would think they are by the way that they flip it.
And you said when was their lunchtime flow?
The lunchtime flow is on Friday noon, and that would be with DJ Unknown of the Good Company Band.
And then,
Make
of
sure
course,
you
we've got
tune
our
in.
Cornerstone show, Friday Night Live, every Friday, 11 till whenever we get tired. We hit all sorts of topics. We usually have independent artist interviews. We've got birthdays and anniversaries of hip hop albums and luminaries. And then we get into news and gossip. I think I'd like to get a little more gossip in there because this
Of
is
course he
basically
would.
a little more, oh, Sherry. Make sure you hit the replay. That's why we recorded for you guys. Share the stream. Make sure you like, follow, share, subscribe, all that mess. Architect, hit them with the socials and where they can find you.
You can find me at Architect7 at Instagram and also on Facebook.
And my handle on Instagram, I guess I'll go ahead and give that out since randos are following me on Instagram anyway. I'm like, why do you have 2 pictures and 1,500 followers? Like, what? I'm on Instagram at It's Diva Views. And I also have a Facebook page, Diva Views Citizen. I guess you can hit me up there. I don't really have an interesting profile on Instagram, but hey, if you feel like looking at memes and food, there you go. This has been the Sunday Special Report. I'm the Diva, and these are my views. My co-host has been Architect7. We appreciate y'all riding with us through the whole topic of discussions. If you have any topics you want us to discuss, hit us up on Facebook. Send us an instant message or a DM and let us know what you'd like to discuss next week. We're going to get deeper into other topics. I think Architect wants to talk about community policing. Do we defund? Can the 8 wait? We'll see what we want to get into. And in the meantime, continue being, active hip hop citizens.